So if you need to exercise the demons from a meta, you need an old priest and a young priest. So Protoss priest is the old priest and Wilted priest is the young priest, right?
I feel like we're like a little bit of Kung Fu Panda, but priests here.
My monk deck is in Commander, not in Hearthstone. So yeah.
Welcome to episode 508 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, July 31st, 2025 in the evening. Coming to you from Teldrassil, California, it's me, Magesa. From Northrend, Massachusetts, we have WickedGood.
Hi.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Kresh, Beef Squatch, David P., Jeremy T., Bottlecaps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, May, SSJ5 Goku, NY Kiwi, Spine, and our newest producer, Proby1. And by our patrons of the week, Hidden Jester and Fog Fanatic. You can go to patreon.com/Concede to get perks like a thank you at the top of the show, bonus post-show content, early access to new episodes, one-on-one coaching sessions, and help support the show in the process. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. As you may have noticed, I am not Edelweiss. Unfortunately, we are lacking Edelweiss today. She is doing fine, but it is Edelweiss, her wife's birthday. So we wish her
Happy
a good birthday.
Edelweiss.
Happy birthday.
I need an excuse to press buttons. What can I say?
I like paused because I could see it on your face that you were going to press a button.
I'm not subtle. This is why I play Hearthstone and not poker. So yeah.
But so we will have her back next week. But in the meantime, the two of us, we are recording not live, off air today, because we have an announcement to talk about that will be announced tomorrow, Friday, August 1st, which will have already happened by the time you hear this. And after that, we have Priest to talk about, because if it's just the two of us, we're going to take advantage of it.
We are nothing if not predictable.
But first, Wicked, it looks like you have not been playing Priest lately.
Wow. Yeah, I had my week of just Arena, and that was fine. And then I came back to Standard a little bit, and I started playing Starship Death Knight, and then I remembered why I went back to Arena. And Starship Death Knight is basically the deck to scam the scam decks, because it has the answers for... It's one of the few decks that can actually deal with just like vomiting a whole bunch of stats onto the board early. And because you can run Wild Pyromancer with the poison, give it poison and kill everything. You have Corpse Explosion. You can just get enough armor to get out of range of whatever else they're going to do. And so like you have enough answers, and that's kind of what you need a control deck to do, is you need it to at least be able to answer whatever all of the oppressive decks are doing in common, and that's what that can do. But it also is just really, really boring. And I like playing Control, right? Like I enjoy playing Control, but it feels like an escape room where you already know where everything is set up, and you know the answers to the puzzles, and you just need to figure out where they are in the room. Because that's basically what it is. Because it's like, okay, I know exactly what they're going to do, and I know what I need to have by what turn, and it comes down to, can I draw it? And if I do, then I win, and if I don't, then I lose, and that's it. And it was not a whole lot of fun. And then every so often you get into a mirror, which is just the actual worst. I played a few games of that. I'm not going to get to 11x this month because I just was not playing enough, and it's fine. I did finish Final Fantasy 13 over the weekend, so that was my accomplishment for the weekend. It is a very good game. It did not beat the allegations of being one very long corridor that takes 40 hours to traverse. There was like a 15-minute section where it opened up and let you do side quests, and then it was right back to the corridor again. But I did enjoy that. I honestly, I don't mind a game where there's no ambiguity of where you're going to go, and you just kind of need the only way to go is through. And I kind of did enjoy that to some extent. And I didn't go straight on to Lightning Returns because I needed, or not Lightning Returns, to Final Fantasy 13 too, because I kind of needed a break from that. So I started Final Fantasy 15, which is the bro road trip Final Fantasy.
Nice.
So it's funny because my daughter's been driving me to the train station so that she can have the car during the day when I'm at the office. And I got in the car with her on Tuesday and I said, "Oh, this is just like Final Fantasy 15. I get in the car and then someone else drives me to my destination and I don't do anything interactive for 15 minutes." So, it was she appreciated that, having played some Final Fantasy 15, because this is also the one with cars and cell phones and mini marts and all sorts of stuff. So
it's
but also monsters.
It's basically a modern AU fanfiction of Final Fantasy, but official.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's kind of like what if Final Fantasy was today, but we also had kings and swords and stuff and magic, but also cars and phones. So
yeah,
and like there's one character who just takes pictures of everything all the time. And like whenever you go to rest, you go through his camera roll and you pick the ones that you want to save, and he levels up in photography. It's delightful. It's actually kind of charming. There is the one, so there's a Sid in every one of the games. And so his granddaughter is like the mechanic at the first rest area, and she's a video game character circa 10 years ago, right? We'll leave it at that. And they're like, one of the first pictures is just like full on like accentuating her, her characteristics, and like, okay, dude, like settle down. But then, but the rest of it is all like he's taking pictures of like all four of them, like in different, like not always posed, but sometimes like candids, or like sometimes there's like a giant monster attacking you, and I don't know why he's taking his camera out to take a picture of like the giant monster roaring at you instead of like getting a sword out, but that's what he's doing. And it's a good picture, but it's like, dude, put the phone away. Like, stuff's happening. Like, what are you doing?
He's taking journalism very seriously.
He is. He's doing. I suppose so. But also, he's got a gun and a knife. Like, he should be fighting the thing. Anyway, but it's a fun game. I'm enjoying it. It's not as escapist as I might like, given, all the trappings of modern society, but it's fun nonetheless. So what about you? What have you been doing this week?
Well, that reminded me of, I've been reading a book called The Incandescent by Emily Tesh, who also wrote a book called Some Desperate Glory that won a Hugo, which I haven't read, but apparently is very good. The Incandescent was recommended to me by Schwal because it features a teacher as the main character. She is the department head of magic at a fancy British boarding school, but it's set in the modern day. And, so it's, if you think like British boarding school, you think Harry Potter, but everybody knows about magic and they have cell phones. They have a very strict cell phone policy because demons like to possess the cell phones. But realistically,
also it's a school. My kids have my kids also have to give up their cell phones when they walk into a classroom at their high school, and there's no magic involved. So,
as they should. But also realistically, that doesn't stop the boarding school students from having phones and requiring the imps in their phones to be banished all the time. So it's very entertaining. It's good so far. And it's kind of an ode to teaching. I'm also very glad that my job does not include having to keep teenagers safe from extraplanar demons. Because, it's enough work. And also, there's a reason I'm not a department head.
Yes, very much so.
That's a lot of work, too.
Yeah.
Every time there's an opening, it's like, should I apply? No, I'm definitely not going to. In terms of Hearthstone, I've been playing some Wilted Priest. We'll talk more about that. Sometimes you can win on turn 7 or even turn 6 with the coin a couple times. Other times you just don't draw your Careless Crafters, or you don't draw your Wilted Shadows despite looking for them with all your tutors. I had a Warlock of some variety. I think it was a Starship Warlock. And they were going pretty slow. I had all this time to kill them, but I just could not find my crafter. And finally, when they had enough to kill me, I play a crafter and they go, "Well played." I'm like, really? That was not necessary. And then I conceded. just wanting to be like, well, look, I finally found the crafter, but it's too late now. But I did also have a game versus Cycle Rogue earlier today, or maybe this was yesterday, where I could not find my Wilted Shadow. So I kept having to use the bandages to not die versus their big boards, and Sleepy Residents, which are not in all versions of the deck, but they were in this version of the deck that I was playing. Repackage is not that useful against rogues because they just immediately redraw it and replay everything.
And all their stuff is cheap, so they can just play it all out if they get it too. It's not even like you're taking up that much mana by shoving it all back in their hand.
I did use my Rest in Peace on my Sleepy Resident twice. Just like, where is my Wilted Shadow? I almost completely ran them out of stuff, and then they got the Thrall hero, the one that evolves minions as its battle cry, and then its hero power is transform a friendly minion into a random one that costs one more. But the equivalent.
The Death Knight Thrall. Yeah. That was unplayable back in the day, even. So
yeah. Well, they did get a big enough board through this that I was going to finally have to win, but on turn 14, I drew my Wilted Shadow and killed them.
Oh my god.
That's not the usual. Before I scare everyone off from listening to the rest of the episode, that is not the usual way. And I was very pleased with myself for having run a Cycle Rogue out of stuff, essentially. But obviously not an ideal game.
Yeah. I had the similar experience against the Cycle Rogue where I was able to just, like, get rid of their initial board with the Giants and then just get enough armor to outlast the Incendious bombs or Incendious eruptions, and have the removal for the Incendious so it couldn't stick around to do the extra damage. And they still played it out, God bless their soul, but it's like, okay, like, I can do math and I can see that number is a lot less than the number that's on my portrait, so that's probably not going to work out for you, but you go see how it works anyway. Is that much math I can do? Like,
yep. It's the Wilted Priest math, to be exact. It's not that hard if they don't have armor. If they do have armor, the exact math gets tricky, but you can kind of estimate. And then I did make, and link in the show notes, a spreadsheet that will calculate it for you exactly if you're like, will this kill this Death Knight? But my other advice is, if you're wondering to kill the Death Knight and you think it might be enough, you should probably just try it. Because if you wait, they might like Exodar their starship and then gain a bazillion armor, and then never mind.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to traumatize you by making you relive games against Death Knights. Like, that was not my intent.
Honestly, though, if you don't like facing Death Knights, that's a good reason to play Wilted Shadow Priest.
Yeah, at least you feel like you have some agency against them, which is, sometimes you cannot feel that way against them playing other decks. So
yeah.
All
right. Well, we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah. So let's get into the news.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
Okay, so we got the reason we are recording off stream, but not early. We're recording on time, but you won't be hearing this until at least Friday, even for the patrons, is because we got the patch notes for patch 33.2, which is coming out on Tuesday, August 5th. This is the Battlegrounds patch, but there are significant changes and bug fixes for Standard that are going to be relevant. But we are going to talk about Battlegrounds first. There is a new Battleground season that is starting with the new patch, Echoes of Ungoro. It goes live with the patch on August 5th at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is 1 p.m. Eastern, which is also colloquially known as Blizzard o'clock. I did that to myself. It's my own fault for trying to use a fancy word. And then I just stepped on the rake. I did that to myself, and I have no one to blame. So there's a new keyword called Rally. Rally, very simply, triggers whenever the minion attacks. It primarily is on Quillboar and Dragons. So the examples they had in the original announcement are Tuscamper, which has Rally play a blood gem on this, and There's also, I'm looking for a dragon because they said they had dragons, and they're making me scroll down to the 4th one to find one. Rally, give two friendly dragons this minion's health, except for 2 friendly other dragons this minion's health. They say except Charmwing. I don't know why they didn't just use the word other, which I think they've used otherwise, but whatever. Yeah, so if you can get something that has a lot of health and can attack multiple times, you can give it Wind Fury or whatever, then it'll trigger a whole bunch. Quests are coming back. They are not all the same quests as we had before. They brought back 35 quest rewards. They say carefully selected based on player feedback and how they fit with the updated minion pool. And there are 13 brand new quest rewards, some that reference the rally keyword. Quests are one of the better mechanics in Battlegrounds. So that'll be pretty fun. That's generally well received. There's also going to be a minion refresh coming with this patch. So, which is, they don't usually do one of those mechanics alongside a minion refresh, but usually they save that to make it fresh, but maybe it's not as new anymore, so it's okay to do that all at the same time. We're getting a Low is getting added to the hero pool. He has a passive that says after friendly minions attack 15 times, get your hero's welcome, and the hero's welcome is a 1 mana, 1 gold hero power that says discover rally minions. So he's all about rally minions, both because he wants you to attack a lot, and also if you're attacking a lot, you want to trigger rally a lot, so then you discover rally and you attack some more. There is a new keyword for pirates named Bounty. This is referring to a set of 5 tier 3 tavern spells that are exclusive to lobbies that have pirates in them. So together they have a pool appearance rate equivalent to 2 regular tavern spells, but several pirates in the season can generate them. And there's a payoff in Proud Privateer. So the examples that they have, and all the reveals are done, but we're not a Battlegrounds podcast, so we're not going through everything. But the 2 that they have in the announcement are Friendly Bounty, which gets you a random minion of your most common type, and Wealthy Bounty, which gives you 2 gold. So you can go look at the card library. By the time you're listening to this, it should be all updated because all the reveals are done. So those will all be public information. You can go see what's going to be in and out of the pool. There's also they're adding a guide as a quality of life improvement to the game. This is fairly similar if you use HS Replay, and they have the thing in the upper right hand corner of the screen that you can click on the tier, and it'll show you all of the minions that are in the pool for that tier. That's what's going to be there in this guide, but the added bonus of it showing you what is left in the pool. So it's not only showing you what is available from the start of the game, but also what is still remaining from each keyword type, or minion type rather, in the pool. So that's a pretty cool feature that and they'll do that for both minions and for spells. So I think that'll be helpful. Certainly I'm the kind of person who struggles with being able to tell which minions are which from the art, and the frames don't really help until they're already in your hand. So maybe being able to see them will at least tell me what I should be looking for without having to mouse over every single one of them every single time when I'm playing the game.
And I just don't even know what's there ever, because I play rarely enough that they've changed it every time.
Yeah. Especially when they're changing out like 100 minions, then it's hard to keep up with if you're not playing Battlegrounds a lot. As this is a new patch, there will be a Battlegrounds track refresh as usual. And there will be cosmetics that you can get there. And yeah, that'll be available on August 5th with the patch. So if you are interested in Battlegrounds, that will be there for you. We do have, which is unusual for a Battlegrounds patch, we do have standard balance changes that are in this patch, which is probably speaking to the fact that the last set of nerfs really, they did change the meta, not necessarily in the way that everyone would like. And certainly we've had a lot of Dorian Warlocks and hand buff Hunters and Cycle Rogues, especially at top Legend, that have been kind of unpleasant to play against, certainly going into playoffs in a couple of weeks. That we probably wouldn't expect another balance change until after playoffs. So this is leading up to a competitive patch that people are going to be competing on for the Masters Tour. So they want to. I don't know if these are going to do it, but they had to do something because otherwise we were going to have a Masters Tour playoffs full of just Dorian Warlock mirrors, which nobody really wants to watch. So the dev comment is, well met. We don't typically roll out balance changes at this point in the patch cycle, but we wanted to use this opportunity to make a few adjustments. First up, we're tuning down 2 standout performers since our last adjustments, particularly in high rank play. Cycle Rogue and Agamagon Warlock, which is really Dorian Warlock. But they can call it whatever they like. These changes are aimed at slowing their pace and curbing how consistently they can execute their power plays. We're also giving a gentle boost to Quest Mage and implementing a beneficial fix for Quest Demon Hunter. As always, we'll be closely monitoring the meta and we'll follow up with additional changes in our next regularly scheduled balance patch. Well, actually, now that I say that, we should have one probably 10 to 14 days after the Battlegrounds patch, which should be before playoffs. So that may actually be a window because they do a balance patch for Battlegrounds. They can also work standard balance changes into. So the changes that they're doing, Playhouse Giant is going from 20 mana to 25 mana. Cursed Catacombs which is the 0 mana spell for Warlock that says discover a minion, it becomes temporary, is now going to discover any card in your deck. Forbidden Sequence, which is the mage quest, is going from discover 8 cards to discover 7 cards in order to finish the quest. And then Garishi Colossus, which is the Demon Hunter quest reward, is changing from only working on your turn, where if you deal 2 damage, it'll deal double that instead. It will now work on your opponent's turn. The dev comment for this is community feedback highlighted a mismatch between the text and effect of the Demon Hunter quest reward, which was causing him some confusion. Faced with the choice of updating the text to match the gameplay or adjusting the gameplay to match the text, we chose to revise the gameplay to improve both the card's clarity and effectiveness. The big impact from this is Ballhog will now work with it. I think that's the biggest thing that's going to do damage. Aside from like having to trade into things with 2 attack, I think that's the other thing that would really be affected by this. But Ballhog in particular very often gets popped on your opponent's turn, and now it will do the 4 damage and heal you for the 4, which is significant.
Yeah. Edel gave some very brief thoughts on the changes. She said, Dorian Lock is dead. Cycle Rogue is slower, but not dead. Quest Mage is still bad. Armor is probably ascendant, is her prediction here. Very briefly.
I mean, Hand Buff Hunter is still a thing, right? I guess the question is, if Hand Buff Hunter is the only quote-unquote scam deck that's viable, is it easier to target by a control deck, right? And then maybe that reduces, maybe if you get rid of 2 of the 3, I don't know, you're getting rid of Cycle Rogue. Like, Cycle Rogue is just like, it refuses to die. It's not really just Playhouse Giants that's the problem. I mean, you also have the Incendious turns at the end. It's just the Playhouse Giants that can kind of end the game quickly. But then you have Asteroids and Incendious after you've drawn the whole deck. The problem is the card draw. The problem is not, like, Playhouse Giants was a payoff for it. It certainly will help slow that turn down, but it's not going to make the deck that much less effective, I don't think.
I think Cycle Rogue, I think it'll be pretty dead at lower ranks where it's already, even though the field is more favorable to it, it's just a really hard deck to play. It doesn't tend to perform well there. If we're getting down the Giants a turn slower, which is essentially what's happening here, then that's going to be really poor there. But I think it'll still be good at higher ranks. Dorian Warlock is a mildly unfavorable matchup to it, so seeing that go away, I mean, it's about even, but it won't be unhappy to see that go away. I think the Dorian Warlock, the reason why we're saying, like, I think that there's going to be Warlocks floating around, like the Wheel Warlock, for example, if we are seeing more slow decks. That's a good counter to them.
Yeah.
But you can't, it was already like you didn't usually get off the big Dorian thing, and now it makes it even that much more inconsistent to try to get it off, to the point where I think it's not worth doing, right? Because you could say, like, well, it'll just be extra annoying when they get it off, but, like, are they even going to put that in their deck if it's that inconsistent? I don't think so.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't think so. Part of the reason why we're talking about Priest is that Dorian Warlock and Cycle Rogue are 2 bad matchups for both Protoss and Wilted Priest.
Yeah.
And so if we see less of that, then stocks are up for that. And if we're seeing more slow sort of armor deck things, then the Bandage Priest is actually a good choice there. So that
Protoss Priest isn't terrible either. Like it's not as good, but it's not terrible because there is just like enough consistent pressure that it's hard to out armor it. If you keep getting like motherships over and over again. So like that was actually one of the worst matchups for Warrior when Warrior was a thing. Like either one of the certainly like the Quest Warrior. Like you could not outvalue constant motherships and all of the 12 mana minions that were coming out. So both of those have, even against the Death Knight, Protoss Priest is decent and probably could keep up as well.
Those are its main good matchups, are the control. What it struggles against, the Protoss, is like OTKs. So the Bandage Priest, the Dollhouse Druid, Owlonius Druid, and like Beast Hunter.
Yeah. And you could just go back to like if it's just Beast Hunter, right? Then you could run Shadowward Ruin in that deck. And that would pretty much answer the big hand buff turn.
Yeah, that would answer the big hand buff turns a little bit.
You couldn't do anything against Agamagon into like Ysera or whatever, and then you just died. And there was really nothing you could do about that. And that's the reason that the Cursed Catacombs change kills it, is because you were already had to not draw Agamagon before your turn 6 Dorian play. And then you needed to Curse Catacombs on that turn, and then you only had, so many minions in the deck, and you could whiff on it, right? So, like, every time that I saw Ysera come down after a Dorian, I knew I'd won the game. Because Ysera would be the other thing that they could grab, and they would, if they whiffed, they would take the Ysera and just ramp a little bit, and then I'd clear the board and they would die. That's a lot different than taking 20 damage on that turn and then also having to deal with the big minions on board. It's one thing to deal with a board of big minions. It's another thing with dealing with a board of big minions and being 5 health.
And you could easily get all spells now with the Catacombs, and then you might not be able to play any of it because you have to draw one of them. It becomes temporary. Like, I think that the card is still a good card, but it is not going to enable this kind of thing. It's not a tutor in the same way anymore, which on the one hand, tutors can be really fun. So that's kind of a shame. But on the other hand, I feel like this card, if it wasn't Dorian, it was going to be something else. And we're going to have this card for a year and a half. So I can see just sort of preemptively being like, we're just going to stop them from running curated minion pools and tutoring for the rest of the next year and a half.
I mean, it is worth thinking about, this is one thing that we hadn't really talked about when we were talking about the state of the game, but targeted card draw is kind of a problem because it's enabling these sorts of things also, right? And it's one thing when it's a targeted discover and you have a limited pool and you know what you're going to get, but when it's targeted card draw from your deck and you can craft your deck such that you always draw the thing that you want, it is enabling a lot of these combo decks to be as consistent as they are. And we saw that with several of those all at the same time, right? Because I mean, even in the Hunter, we still have that because you just run minimal beast so that you can get the 4-drop that summons a copy if its power is too high. And you're kind of crafting your deck to do that. And I do wonder if that is something that they need to back off a little bit from as well, because we've enabled so many of these things. Yes, it's fun, but it just leads to the combo decks being so consistent that then you have to do something like this, right?
I think I have mixed feelings because in general, I tend to think that tutors make for kind of interesting deck building challenges, and I think a deck having consistency to a point is not a bad thing. It enables different archetypes. But I do think that there can be a point where the play pattern starts to become really obnoxious, or sometimes it can enable really obnoxious play patterns. I don't think that it's necessarily a problem in and of itself, but it becomes a way that things can sneak in, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have mixed. Something like bird watching has just been a really like flexible card, but it is also part of what makes Hand Buff Hunter possible. I also think Hand Buff Hunter is kind of fun, but then it's like, but it's also really frustrating to face when they just get that scam and it's like, do you have the answer or you don't? You win or you lose on that turn. It's also like, if the power level of the whole format is fairly low, then like some of these scams like the Mech Warrior, this is a point that BS made, but we had Chemspell Tortola for several months, at least, if not 6 months or more. And nobody but Enzo on our Discord was playing it. And then they nerfed things until suddenly, for a while, it was really kind of the best thing to do, and then still see it a fair bit, especially on the Climb to Legend. And so, yeah.
And maybe it's not really targeted card draw as much as it is targeted discover. That's the problem, right? Because like targeted card draw, you still need to put like whenever you're doing that sort of targeting, right? You need to put at least a couple different ones in your deck, because if you draw the first one, then the card is dead, right? But targeted discover gets around that by letting you put 3 to 4 of whatever it is into your deck, and that so that it's not dead and you can still get exactly what it is that you want. So maybe that's one thing. And again, it's when you have a plane crash, it's not one thing that went wrong, but this is one thing that they've leaned on that as a tool a lot, and it's noticeable when they're making a change like this, where they have to change a card that was clearly designed for the Warlock quest, right? Like that's what it was there for, but because it said discover a minion, and then it was able to, then we're able to turn it into this effectively a tutor to get exactly the card that you're looking for, and then enable this pretty oppressive. And I mean, it's not even the fact it's oppressive, it's just like not fun to play against because it's not interactive.
Right. It was definitely counterable, but but not when they get the nuts draw. And so that doesn't feel good.
And it's hard. It's also hard to counter that and counter everything else that's happening, because you could definitely go all in on countering that deck, but then you make yourself worse against everything else.
I do like that the card is flexible and generally good, and I think it might still find its way into some Warlock decks. There could be an argument that maybe they should have just hit Dorian instead, but I can see them maybe feeling like this card has a decent chance of causing trouble some other way, so we're going to hit it instead. It is a little interesting that they hit the new card, though, instead of Dorian, which is close to rotating.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is that, like, discover a card from your deck is already, like, by the time that you're playing it, probably, like, seeing an eighth of your deck, right? When you think about it. Because, like, by the time that before you've even gotten to play anything, you're down to 27 to 26 cards, right? By the time that you're playing one of these cards, it's probably turn 3, turn 4, turn 5. So you've drawn a few more cards. So you're already, let's say that you have like 21 cards left in your deck, you're seeing like a seventh of it, right? And then when you limit that pool more, then you're seeing probably half of the deck that you care about by that point, right? Because you're also talking about duplicates that you only see one of them. So assuming that you're running 2 copies of each and you're looking at 21 cards, you're really looking at 10 cards if it's just discover a card, right? Like, let's say 11, we'll round up for argument's sake. You're looking at 11 cards, and then you're looking at 3 of the 11, right? So that's like a quarter of your deck. And then if you're limiting that even more, it makes it really easy to just get whatever you want out of the deck. And maybe that's a little bit too consistent for what we're doing in general. I mean, certainly we're enabling these OTKs, but maybe that's also leading to some of that consistency that, taking away from some of the variants that you have just in drawing cards.
We'll have to see whether, I don't think we're going to see Agamagan / Dorian Warlock, but we'll have to see whether we see that card. But I don't think Warlock is dead. The Quest Warlock is underperforming compared to, it seemed like maybe it would be all right on the first day, and then it was like, never mind. It's not that good, actually. It's better than some of the other Quest decks, but the Wheel Warlock may still see some play, at least at higher levels. I'm sure that the Quest Mage will see a significant bump from that, but I just doubt it's going to be enough. Because right now, it's a Diamond through Legend, last 3 days, Right now, Quest Mage is like 43% on a good day. So
Yeah.
even if it gains 5%, it's still tier 3. It might hit tier 3 if it gains a decent amount.
Yay.
Which would make it playable, sort of. And maybe it'll hit tier 2, but it's 42.9% was actually better than I was expecting for it. What if I look at Just Legend? Oh no, it's about the same actually at Just Legend, about 43% on Quest Mage. So like maybe it'll come to playability. I don't think it's going to be like a meta breaker. And my guess is that it will move up into tier 3. That is my guess. We will see.
Okay.
Because I do think one less discover is significant. Anyway.
But we do have other things going on other than the balance change. So there is going to be a new Tavern Brawl. This is news at this point, but it's going to be a dual class Tavern Brawl running from August 13th to 20th. Players get to build a deck with cards from any 2 classes from any standard expansion. You choose a primary class, which determines your hero power in the first class you can add cards from. Then you add cards from any additional class. The fusion allows for creative and unexpected synergies. Unexpected synergies are enabling strategies that wouldn't normally be possible in standard play. We've had this in Arena, but not in Constructed. This seems like it could be a Twist season, just saying. But we don't have Twist. We have a new Tavern Brawl for a week to do this. I don't make the rules. It looks like it's going to be a regular Tavern Brawl, not a heroic Tavern Brawl, so it should be inexpensive to enter. If that is something that is appealing to you, please play it and play it a lot, because that will probably send a message to the team that this is something that people want to see. I'm
curious what people will come up with. If you just want to win your pack, somebody will have posted something like on Hearthstone immediately.
Yeah. Speaking of Heroic Tavern Brawl, there will be a Wild Heroic Tavern Brawl running from August 6th to August 13th. Normal Heroic Tavern Brawl rules apply. That goes even more so for Wild, because if you have not been playing Wild and you think that you're going to go in and play this for the rewards, don't do that to yourself. You're just gonna be sad.
Yeah.
Like, if you have the 1,000 gold to spend and it's something that looks interesting to you, maybe you dabbled in Wild, maybe you wanted to learn the format and this is giving you an opportunity to force yourself to do it, then great, then do that. Do not do this for the rewards. It is not going to be worth it. You need to go in pretty deep to break even. I think generally it's 7 if you care about packs, and certainly if you really do care about getting your gold back, you need to go 12 wins, which you are probably not going to do unless you already know that you're capable of doing that. So, but it's there. It could be fun. It could be fun to see what people cook up in Wild. Generally, this is something that does shake up the Wild metagame a little bit, because there are more people paying attention to it. So that could be fun for Wild as well. We have an in-game event, Umbra's Uprising, that runs from August 5th to August 26th. So starting with the new patch, going until the end of the month, you will be able to get a Staff of the Endbringer card, and you'll be able to get them regular for the first part of the quest and golden for the last part of the quest. There will be 4 packs from Lost City of Ungoro, 2 random epic cards from the set, and then a King Bone Crusher hero skin. I believe that's for Druid.
It's for Death Knight.
For Death Knight, yes. It is very small in the picture that I'm looking at. My eyes are very bad.
It's an undead dragon. Is the hero portrait, Death Knight hero portrait in the event. I assume that the Staff of the Endbringer, if you miss the event, you'll be able to get it from opening Lost City packs. Yeah. That's how they've done gift. It's a gift set card. What it is it is a 3-mana legendary weapon for Death Knight, 1/6, Death Rattle, destroy all minions. So if you replace it with another weapon, for example, then, or you just wait 6 turns, but probably
swing in for 1 damage and there's no taunts in the way at that whole time. Yeah.
Probably you're trying to run something else so that you can get the Death Rattle, destroy all minions. And then does Umbra repeat that? She's just cards, right? Oh, but she doesn't. It just Endbringer Umbra just says trigger the Death Rattles of 5 friendly minions that died this game.
Well, that's a flavor fail, I guess. Okay. But okay, fine.
So you can't repeat that, but it is another way to get it clear, and maybe you're running. I mean, what weapons does Death Knight?
Sometimes they run the one that gets a durability back if you spend corpses.
Foam render,
Yeah.
And then the other weapons that you have available are...
There's not much that you want to play.
Soulbreaker, 3 mana after your hero attacks and kills a minion, gain 2 corpses. It's a 3/2.
Oh yeah, that's not... That used to be played a fair amount. It's not really played anymore. Yeah.
There's Grotesque Runeblade from the last set. Battlecry, if the last card you played had an Unholy Rune, gain +1 attack, repeat for blood, and +1 durability. It's a 2 mana 2/2 base.
I forgot that was a card. Yeah.
Yeah. This might be an interesting card for the more aggressive things with Foam Render that want to be able to have another way to, like, a way to clear the board if they get behind on board. That would be my guess of uses for this. Honestly, I'm not upset if it's hard to use their latest clear that Death Knight got. But,
yeah,
you know.
that's also pretty fair. Just be careful if you're playing any oozes against this. That that could be a problem if you're not paying attention.
It could.
Yeah. We also are going to have, from August 26th to September 2nd, we're going to have another in-game event, the Lost City Fire Festival. This is a 1-week event. So you're going to get 2 Lost City of Ungoro packs, 2 tavern tickets, and then 1 Lost City of Ungoro golden pack for completing the quest. I would imagine, this being a 1-week quest, that the quest will be easier to complete than the last several events that we've gotten, but who knows? We'll find out when we get there. So there are also a few relevant... I mean, there's a bunch of bug fixes. You can check the whole list in the show notes, not in the show notes, in the patch notes as normal. But the ones that are relevant for Constructed, they fixed a bug where if Ever-Burning Phoenix had its death rattle triggered without being destroyed, it immediately returned to hand, which is weird.
If you somehow got the Hunter card, maybe, that triggers the death rattle?
Yeah, which, I mean, Rogue does do things like that. I mean, I guess the death rattle does say that it's going to return it to hand rather than being destroyed, but I think it's implying that it's already dead. So it is a little weird that it would bounce it just by triggering the death rattle. I could see a world in which you expected that to work that way, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But fix a bug where we're drawing a summon withdrawn card, which is basically the dragons off of that are summoned when drawn. I think that's the only one that we have. With all you could eat could cause less cards to be drawn. So it's supposed to, I guess what it was doing was skipping the draw that you're supposed to get when a summon when drawn, because summons when drawn is supposed to draw you another card after, and it sounds like it was skipping that. So now it won't do that anymore, which is important if you're playing Mech Warrior, because that's generally where all you can eat sees play. Fix a bug where the death rattle given by Amphibian Spirit lacked functionality when copied. So if you're copying a minion, you're supposed to copy all the things that are on the minion, and if that death rattle was there, it wouldn't trigger, and that's bad. So it doesn't do that anymore. And fixed a bug in Arena where closing the game while having an active underground arena run and continuing after some time could make a legendary card disappear, which sounds like a very bad magic trick.
That sounds infuriating for people to whom that happened, so it won't happen anymore.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, because I would expect, I mean, either it's getting rid of your only legendary, or if you're 2 losses in, it's getting rid of one of your legendaries when you're feasting all people that have 2 legendaries, and that's also bad. So yeah, either way, that is no bueno. So do be aware of that if you're listening to this between when we're recording and when the patch goes live, because that is still going to be an issue until the patch drops on Tuesday morning. Speaking of Arena, this is not in the patch notes, but this is some news that came out this week that Escape the Underfell is now banned in both Arena modes. And as someone who has played a fair amount of Arena over the past week or so, or a week ago, good riddance. It is, it especially after it got buffed, it really did become pretty oppressive in Arena, because it's not that hard to trigger, especially when you're given a bucket that is intended to effectively give you most of what you need to be able to complete the quest. It gets completed very early, and then it is an insurmountable amount of value to recover from when facing it if you don't have something similar, which there just are not that many things. So I think this is a good ban. I'm a little bit concerned about the mage quest similarly that they're buffing in this patch, because when they are buffing the cards for constructed, they are also buffing them for arena. And the quests, when they complete, tend to be very strong in arena, much more so than in constructed, which one would expect, right? Because the power level is higher than it used to be in arena, but it is still generally lower. So something that gives you the advantage of something like the like either of those quests is pretty hard to come back from. So I hope that they're keeping an eye on the mage quest in arena also when they're buffing it. And this is kind of the concern about all the buffs to the quests, is you're also affecting arena, where they're more of an outlier or more of an outsized effect than they would be. That's why I'm glad I'm not on the balance team, I'll tell you that much. So
yeah, this stuff is hard. It's very easy to criticize. It's a lot harder to say, well, what exactly should be done?
Yeah. That's why I tend not to give solutions. I just say what I don't think is fun and let them figure out what to do about it. Because that's an opinion I can have, and it's valid. Trying to fix it is not, it's kind of like standing over the mechanic when your engine's shot and trying to tell him what you should be doing. And you're paying him to do the thing the right way.
There is a quote from Neil Gaiman, who is this before the allegations came out. But it's still a good quote, where he was talking about writing, but I think it applies to a lot of fields, saying if someone tells you that something is wrong with your work, they're almost always correct. But when they tell you how to fix it, they are almost always wrong. So,
yeah.
Which is not to say that I think we can't speculate about things that we would do or ways that things can improve, but just like it's hard. If you see a problem and you're experiencing a problem, then kind of by definition you're experiencing a problem. But anyway.
Yeah. That's why but in general it is more effective to say what you don't like or what's not fun for you than what you think they should do about it, because there are so many things that they're having to like, and I'm not saying that everything's great right now, but it's not easy, and I don't envy them trying to figure out how to fix it. So one part of more inside baseball that did come out this week is that we have a new senior influencer manager. Unfortunately, that is not Ridiculous Hat, but it is kind of the best outcome that we could have outside of that. So Alkali Lake is returning as senior influencer manager. She did leave a tweet in making clear that she's not a community manager. She's focused more around creators and the creator program. She was the community manager from 2021 to 2023. She is the one who designed and did the initial implementation of the creator program. Along with a lot of other things. There were a lot of problems in community before she joined, and she did a lot of good work to clean that up from what she inherited the first time around. Obviously, we're going to miss Hat. It is no secret that he is a friend and former, co-host of the show, and we absolutely appreciate everything that he's done, and we really hope that he's able to find something else that's as fulfilling for him as what he was doing in the Hearthstone team. And obviously there's no one who can really fill his shoes, but Alkali really she's very good at what she does. And if we're not getting Hat back, I think that this is the next best possible outcome that we possibly could have. And it is going to be good to work with her again.
We have spoken a lot about the excellent work that Hat did. He has said he's now looking ahead. What's the next thing? And I know he'll find something really good for him. And I think what we can best do to support him is also, turn our attention looking ahead. And we had a whole episode with the rest of our thoughts on that. And I do think, even though I, joined the podcast too late to sort of get to know Alkali and work with her personally, I'm looking forward to get to know her a little better and work with her, because I've heard many, many good things. And the creator program itself really brought a lot of increased support and opportunities and transparency about access to those opportunities. So yeah, she set up some good work that then Hat really did a good job continuing. So I'm looking forward to getting to work with her.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the best possible outcome would be we had both of them, but yes. barring that,
we did
that,
for like 3 weeks.
We did
back in 2023.
But, yeah. But I mean, and I've like, I think I've said this on the show before, but like before I was on the show, like when I was still trying to make my stream happen, she took time out before she was community manager to help me with my stream. And like a lot of her stuff was really that she brought was really insightful and like gave me some actionable things that I was able to do immediately and did help my stream at the time. So like she knows things. And also it's good to have someone who is not a stranger to this community coming in and trying to start from scratch. Right. So I, wish Alkali all the best of luck. And, it's going to be good to work with her. And yeah, we'll see what happens from there. But that is it for news. And again, since Edel's not here, there's no one to stop us from talking about Priest. So here we go.
All right. Well, we're going to take the opportunity to talk about not one, but two priests. Really, there are 3 priest decks in the meta because Menagerie Priest is, it looks terrible in the stats, but according to Zacho in the latest podcast, that is because it's a bot deck now. And if you look at tracker side data, it appears to be fine. However, if you're going to play just strict aggro like Beast Hunter, does outperform it. And I talked about Menagerie Priest enough on this podcast, even though we never featured it. So instead, we will focus on Protoss Priest and Wilted Shadow Priest, both of which, if we see a decline in the Dorian Warlock and the Cycle Rogue, will probably see an improvement in their performance. Again, we're recording this before these changes are even announced, let alone go live. But these decks are both, right now, things that you can play and that we've enjoyed playing. So I think we'll start with Protoss Priest.
Yeah. So if you need to exercise the demons from a meta, you need an old priest and a young priest. So Protoss Priest is the old priest and Wilted Priest is the young priest, right? So Protoss Priest, and we kind of talked about it a couple weeks ago, right after the nerfs, and it's definitely fallen off again because Warlock is... I'm surprised that the stats that we're looking at, though, I guess we're looking at Diamond to Legend. I really should change it to just Legend.
It might be including some stats. Quest Warlock and stuff in it.
Yeah. So that looks more like the Priest I know. There we go. So like the matchup against Warlock is 44%. That's probably more Dorian Warlock. There's probably some still Quest Warlock if we're just looking at Legend. I could probably change to like top 5,000, but I'm not going to. But you can see if you're watching the video, like Rogue, Warlock, and our Rogue and Warlock are the 2 worst matchups, and those are the 2 that are getting affected. The other ones that are really bad are Rogue and Shaman and Druid, and we don't see a whole lot of Shaman and Druid. I'm not even really sure. I'm assuming that the Druid is Alonius. That must be what it's running into. I'm not sure what the Shaman is.
The Shaman is a small sample size is what it is because it's only 32 games.
There's only 32 games, yeah. That's also fair. Yeah, so that's where we think that this could be better positioned, especially because you're going to get blown out by the Hunter occasionally, but it's not always going to happen. And then you might be able to kind of deal with that. And then if you can get your Resuscitate down ahead of it, you might be able to trade off some of the things that they're putting out. But in general, what you're trying to do is you're playing kind of I don't want to call it aggressive because it's kind of slow for an aggressive strategy, but you're playing on curve, right? You're playing Catch of the Day. Ideally, you don't want to be playing Catch of the Day from hand. You want to be getting it at a Trusty Fishing Rod, but if you happen to end up with it in hand, then you'll play it on 1. You're playing Photon Cannon on 2, you're playing Void Ray on 3.
Or
and
Sentry.
Then you're trying to get those... Sentry, sorry. Photon Cannon's the spell. All the Protoss stuff kind of rolls together after a while. So Sentry, you would think that the Photon Cannon would be the one to be attacking. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. You're playing either Void Ray or a Trusty Fishing Rod on 3. You're trying to get things killed off so that you can resuscitate them on 5. Especially the Sentry, because then the Sentry gives you 2 more of the discounts for your future Protoss. minions, but you don't necessarily have to trade them off. You can also just go face with them and try to smart your opponent down. You have the zealots that are coming out of Chrono Boost as well. This list that we're showing actually also plays Artanis, which gives you 2 more zealots. The list that I was playing that I liked a little bit more was running less of the Artanis. It was just running more draw to try to make sure that we found the things that we needed. I think it was Xavius is in the list. I think there was one more tutor that, after me complaining about tutors for 20 minutes, that was making it a little bit easier to find. But this has Gravedawn Sunbloom in that spot, which is also just more draw, so that's okay. And then ultimately, if plan A, which is beat your opponent up in the face with little guys, doesn't work, then you have plan B, which is Mothership. And Mothership should be fairly discounted by like turn 7 or so. And then you start playing whatever it gives you. You have Templars, you have carriers. Sometimes you'll get more sentries out of it and discount other things. And the other thing that you sometimes run is Umbra, because Umbra can get you more discounts out of the sentries. And if you've played a Mothership, it will also toss a couple of big minions into your hand that will get discounted by all the other sentry procs.
Yeah, if you find yourself needing more gas against slower decks, which is already generally our good matchup, but if you're finding that that's a struggle and you're seeing more of that, then Umbra is a possibility. Sometimes people have also been doing Narain Sooth Fancy kind of for pseudo draw plus extra value.
That was what I was thinking about instead of the Gravedawn Sunbloom. The Gravedawn Sunbloom may be better because it just draws you 2 more cards that are different. Narain's going to get you 2 of the same thing, which if they're sentries or hallucinations, those are not bad. Sometimes you get 2 of something like sometimes you get 2 of like a trusty fishing rod after you've already pulled all the little stuff out of your deck. And it's like, well, great. Now I have this trusty fishing rod and I know I'm going to draw a trusty fishing rod next turn, and I have a one attack weapon that doesn't do anything, and I'm stuck with that now and for next turn. So,
and it's not necessarily an either or. I did want to say, looking at HS Replay has more sort of granular matchups for the Protoss Priest. Agamagan Warlock Diamond through Legend on HS Replay is a 37% matchup.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Cycle Rogue 39%. So if we're seeing less Agamagan Warlock and less Cycle Rogue, and the Cycle Rogue's a little worse, I imagine that'll still be a bad matchup, but hopefully better. It's bad into the OTK decks, Wilted Priest and Aulonius Druid, but it's really good into the slow decks. And it's good into warriors of all kinds. It's even into Buff Hunter, and you could make, there is a list here that runs Shadow Word Ruin. If you just want to make sure you don't die to that, then you can run Shadow Word Ruin. Yeah, but it might
have to. If the Hunter's pretty prevalent, because it's going to be the last one standing, and it hasn't gotten taken down by other things, you might have to run Shadow Word Ruin in this list to be able to deal with that. Because, you can Vol'jin and deal with, one big thing, but you can't really deal with 2 at the same time. That's the thing that is difficult about it. But Shadow Word Ruin lets you do that.
And sometimes with this deck, the way that I tend to play it, because of course this is the way I tend to play it, is I tend to go for aggression as plan A, and then, if I don't draw an aggressive curve or I went late, then I'll play my Motherships. If you happen to get a lot of, you are mulliganing trying to get the sentries, and if you get a lot of sentries early, then getting your Mothership down early is absolutely what you want to do. But if you don't, just going aggressive with the Void Rays and things like that can absolutely be a game plan. Remember that Photon Cannon can go face. Photon Cannon is the 2-mana deal 3. If it kills a minion, you discount. So usually you are killing a minion with it. But I have missed so many lethals because I forgot that it does go face.
Yeah.
So do keep that in mind.
Yeah. The other big thing with this is the trick with Trusty Fishing Rod is it cares about the current cost of the minion, not the starting cost of the minion. So what that means is that you want to be thinking about when you swing based on how many sentry discounts you have. right? So like if you haven't traded off any sentries and you have a trusty fishing rod, you may want to trade off a sentry first, get the discount, and then have a chance to get the other sentry out of your deck. If you have that weapon up and you have enough discounts such that you might, if you get one more, you might miss out on pulling something. You want to make sure that you're not going to come up empty by popping a discount before you should when you swing with the trusty fishing rod. A lot of the min-maxing you can do with this is getting more of those minions out of your decks by gaming the discounts and pulling those things out. And sometimes you'll like it's sometimes it's a 50-50 with a catch of the day and you pull the catch of the day and it happens. But you know, it's always going to be better if you can get a Void Ray or a Sentry out rather than a catch of the day with the trusty fishing rod, because you can always pull a catch of the day. With a fishing rod, you can't always pull the Sentry or the Void Ray out with it.
So an example of when this might come up is like you have 2 discounts and you only have Void Rays left in your deck. Don't get another discount before you swing, right?
Yeah. And make sure to swing. Like it's also easy to just ignore. You've seen both catch of the days and just like, oh, well, I've got a fishing rod. It does nothing. No, it does a lot. Like make sure to do that and get them out, because that's also draw from your deck. You're thinning your deck out from drawing those things. And that means that you're more likely to draw into your resuscitates, into your motherships, into your chrono boosts, into the things that are going to bridge you to the late game. If you get those things, those draws out of the deck early.
Yeah. And it's really fine to get a Void Ray down. Like, if you get the Void Ray out through your fishing rod, like, it's not a loss that it's not a 5/4 and then it's a 3/2. Like,
oh, yeah.
It's a free 3/2 with Divine Shield and Rush.
It's going to be a 3/2 most of the time anyway. Like, it does not have to have 5 attack to be worth playing. It is probably more valuable playing as a 3/2 that can die and come back from Resuscitate than holding it until it gets discounted enough to play it and be 5 attack.
Maybe argument, unless you're facing a hand buff hunter and you think they're going to give you like multiple small things instead of one big thing, because just like of the way that they're drawing or playing.
Yeah.
Like there are exceptions, but most of the time, like, yeah, do not be afraid to play that. Do not be afraid to use your hallucinations. You don't need to save them for the mothership in most matchups. A really good way to use it is after you do Resuscitate, do it on something with Reborn, like the Reborn Sentry. Now you have 4 discounts and a lot of lifesteal. Or if you need the rush, you can do it on a Void Ray. It still has Divine Shield, so the fact that it takes double damage like doesn't matter. So yeah, be flexible with the hallucinations rather than saving it for one particular thing. If you see a good use for it, you can play it unless you anticipate like in the next turn or two, I think I have a really, really good use for it. You could even like chill and Vol'jin something to be big and then hallucinate it, and now you actually have 2 big things. Maybe that was a Void Ray and you actually can deal with the hand buff hunter now without the Shadowward Ruin, for example. So
also you can hallucinate zealots and they go face.
Yes, that's very important.
That is also very important. Sometimes you get zealots out of the hallucinate, out of the resuscitate rather. If you've killed off more zealots than you've killed off Void Ray, sometimes you will get a zealot and the zealots can go face. And sometimes like a Vol'jin on a zealot is a lethal setup. So do remember that the zealots can go face. Also remember that not only do the Catch of the Days and the Void Rays have rush when they come out of the Resuscitate, but so do the Reborn copies. So if you need to trade off something that is 6 health, you can do that with 1 Catch of the Day coming out of the Resuscitate. So do keep that in mind, because that does make a difference when you're trying to get through a taunt and try to get the rest of your minions through to face, or to trade off something else that's scarier, that's being protected by the taunt, depending on what the situation is.
Yeah. So because the Void Ray has Divine Shield, it's not going to die. So you're only going to get to attack with it once, but then you will still have it alive, which is great. It's going to be hard for them to get rid of. But because the Catch of the Day is going to die, that actually can be helpful, because now you can rush it in again and deal 6 damage. Yeah. So that's true in the Wilted Priest as well. I got a story with the Wilted Priest. With the Protoss Priest. I got a Xavius offered me charge on Mothership. So I took it on principle. I don't remember what my other options were. And it did go long, the game. And I did do Mothership, hallucinate the Mothership, charge them both in for lethal.
Yeah, that's a thing that sometimes happens. So
that was
yeah.
very satisfying. You can also hallucinate if you do get an Archon off of the Motherships. That's a good thing. But I wouldn't save it hoping that happens unless you're really desperate for damage late in the game.
Right. But only after it's transformed. Note that the Templars say play to transform. So you can't hallucinate a Templar and then expect it to transform. You do have to play 2 of them from hand.
Yes.
But once you get one, then you can hallucinate that one, and sometimes that's enough damage to get through. Same thing with if you have a really empty board, sometimes a carrier is also worth doing that on, because the first carrier will spawn the 4/4 ones, and those will trade themselves off before the second one starts to go. So you sometimes will, if you really have to have just that on board for this to work. Just the 2 carriers on board for it to work. But if you have like just a carrier on board, it's fine to hallucinate that. Then the first 4 will attack. They'll probably trade off into things, like 2 of them maybe, and then the other one will go, and you'll probably get full value out of that, and at least some of them will go face. So that is worth considering as well. Again, I wouldn't save it for that. Like, use your play your cards, but if you draw a hallucination late and you have a carrier, that is something that you can do sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot of options. One thing that I like about this deck is that your win condition is always a little different. You can piece together different bits of damage from the Protoss things that you get. Sometimes you whiff and you just get only sentries at the end when you needed lethal, but that doesn't happen too often. I also remember that the Archon that does 2 damage AoE, I believe that does go face, that 2 damage. Sometimes that's helpful.
Yeah.
So occasionally just getting a couple of those and like that 2 damage face is enough to help get you over the top. But yeah, I mean, this is a deck that's been around a while, but if you haven't played it before, I do think it's a fun one. And, hopefully it's not as strong as it seemed like it would be on day 1 of the patch, but I think it's likely to get a little better. If you're at ranks where you're seeing Quest Paladin, this beats Quest Paladin. So just that, in the place where we're playing, we don't see any Quest Paladin, but Quest Paladin is popular at other ranks, and so FYI, this does beat it, and it beats
it beats the Quest Warriors too. Yeah, because like you can beat a turn 5 Tortola with a Vulcan. That is a thing that you can do because you can still get around the elusive. So that is, I did that a couple times before those went away in favor of everything else that was making up the meta we have now, and that was generally very effective. I mean, they do get like hydration stations, but that takes them a little while to get there. So
yeah, and it actually beats Armored Demon Hunter, which is a good thing.
Yes, I imagine that is the sole selling point for you, is that it beats that, so that gives you something that you can do to make them sad.
Yes. But if you would rather OTK people, and you want the young Shadow Priest, I feel like we're like a little bit of Kung Fu Panda, but priests here. The impatient young one, tempted by the way of the shadow. All right, I'm mixing movies now. I think
my monk deck is in Commander, not in Hearthstone. So yeah.
There are people somehow, even though we're not recording live, someone just posted monk in the Discord. I'm sure of it. Okay, so there's a couple builds of the Wilted Shadow Priest. First of all, we've been talking about it, but just to make sure we're all on the same page, this is the deck where the goal is to do an OTK with Wilted Shadow, which is the 7-mana 6/7 that says lifesteal. Whenever you heal an enemy, this attacks it. And you combine that with Careless Crafter, the 3-mana 3/3 that says Death Rattle, get 2 0-cost bandages that restore 3 health. You get a ton of those. You get a Wilted Shadow or 2, maybe buffed up ideally, and then you OTK them. And in some versions of the deck, sort of the original versions of the decks, and this is, jury's still out which one's better, I think, you play Rest in Peace if you need to get your Wilted Shadow back, then you can do it again. There are some versions even that play Tyrande. You don't want her to die, basically, if you're playing her, right? You want to hold her back and then just play her and a Rest in Peace, but she will double your bandages, and that is in some lists. Not on ones I put in the show notes, but that is a possibility if you have Tyrande. I wouldn't craft her for this, but if you have her and you want to play with her. But yeah, using either buffs or Rest in Peace, or both, you OTK using those two pieces. How do you get all those bandages? Well, you have Resuscitate. Your only 3 costs besides Vol'jin who you have to run for birdwatching, and he can be useful. But you don't really want Vol'jin to die. Like, I made this mistake earlier today. I played Vol'jin when I didn't really need to. I just had nothing else to do. And then I realized, I really wanted to hold this. One, because it was against a Starship deck, and I could have used it against their Starship if they launched it to make my Wilted Shadow really big. And 2, if it died, then I might not get my Careless Crafter back from Resuscitate, so you do have to be careful. But if you get Careless Crafter back from Resuscitate, that's 4 more bandages.
You have to have room in your hand for all of this too, so you need to be managing that all at the same time.
So yeah, this is a tricky deck to play in terms of counting. You have to manage your hand. Some lists are also running Critter Caretaker, which is a card from Emerald Dream, 1 mana 2/2. At the end of your turn, restore 3 health to both heroes. This does, like, at the end of the turn, it'll trigger and get you 1 more hit from your Wilted Shadow. So that can be relevant. The only downside of this is that it makes it less likely that you're going to resuscitate a catch of the day. But and usually you'd rather have a catch of the day, but the healing from it is not terrible. It does also make it harder to get chip damage in, and you do want to get chip damage in if you can, but the version of it here that I have that runs Critter Caretaker and Sleepy Resident and all of that is definitely the slow turtle version of the deck. We have Annoyotron, because when you resuscitate Annoyotron, it's doubly annoying. We have Birdwatching is... So the ideal hit from Birdwatching is Wilted Shadow, because that makes it have 8 attack instead of 6, and that's very relevant. However, sometimes you just have to pick what you're missing. Like, if you're missing Careless Crafter, you should probably pick Careless Crafter. If you already have a Wilted Shadow and you're missing Careless Crafter, like, you need those crafters or you can't go off. It's so sad when you're sitting there with Resuscitate in your hand and you haven't drawn any crafters. Some lists are running Xavius as an additional tutor. I really like running Xavius as well. I feel like the optimal list is probably somewhere in between the 2 lists that I put in this, to be honest. Yeah, one of the lists here that I put has like Sleepy Resident and Critter Caretaker and Rest in Peace, and it's looking to play more the long game. The other one is running Nexus Prince Shafar and a lower curve, and Xavius. And the idea that it has is that you can play Shafar and buff your Wilted Shadow. And if you get Shafar back from the Resuscitate instead of Crafter, you're actually not unhappy, because then you can get your Wilted Shadows. If you jigger your hand correctly, you can get your Wilted Shadows to be bigger, and you can possibly even, like, if you save a Holy Smite, for example, and you resuscitate a Shafar, you can trigger it with something, kill it, trigger the next one, all on your turn. So you could sometimes even get both. I haven't actually had that come up, but you can do it. Which does bring me to a point on the Holy Smite. So your Careless Crafters need to die. And sometimes this is actually hard, especially if you're facing an armor deck. If they are smart, they will let it live and make it hard for you to kill it. This is also a tip if you're facing against it. If you can put like a taunt with 1 attack or something, so they can't kill the crafter, they can't go off. Right? So until that crafter is dead, it's not helpful. I mean, it's going 3 face, which is not nothing, but it's not giving bandages. And so the Holy Smite is there to help you control early board, but it's also there to kill your crafter in a pinch, so that you can actually, or if you had a resuscitated crafter, you trade in the first half and then you Holy Smite the second half to get the full 4 bandages out. So that's something I missed at first with the Holy Smite, but once I started playing and I realized, these crafters can be a problem when they don't get cleared. And I do notice that some opponents realize that and some opponents don't. So that is a way that you can sometimes slow people down if you're facing the Wilted Shadow Priest.
We also might just, I mean, anything's possible. We might see shamans come back in some form, and if there are shamans, they will be absolutely be playing Hex.
Yes.
And then this is a way for you to at least get the first one dead so that it can come back from the resuscitate at all. Because if they hex the first one and you don't have a way to get the second one out of your deck, then you're just going to be sitting there hating life for a while.
And Demon Hunter, fast Demon Hunters, which I haven't seen a lot of, but they are around, and they are strong, by the way, if you just want to play aggro. That runs red card.
Yeah.
And that can ruin your day. So
yeah, they can do that against the Sentry and the Protoss Priest too, and that also will similarly ruin your day. Yeah.
And sometimes what you do actually, like if you have extra crafters on board and you don't have enough hand space, but you already have some bandages in hand, if you can't clear other stuff out, just heal with the bandages if you need to, like if you're down some health, because you're going to replenish those bandages anyway. In terms of how many bandages you need, it depends on whether you've been able to buff your Wilted Shadow or not, and also whether they have armor. I think the Shafar build is probably better against faster decks, and the other build might be better in terms of having a higher max damage. But if you have, like, if they're at 30 health, and you have no buffs, you need like 8 bandages, or one of them can be a hero power, which is quite a few. But if you've buffed it with birdwatching, you only need 7 or 6 plus your hero power. If you've had a Shafar buff, you only need 6. If you get 2 of them because you use Rest in Peace, plus you've played one, then you need like 3 bandages. It's a little hard to do the math for this. So I have a few
And by a little, she means a lot.
So there's a few things to do. One is to kind of know, and I put them in the show notes, those breakpoints of like 8 bandages, no buff, 7 bandages with birdwatching, or heals really, because you can also use your hero power if you have enough mana, 6 bandages with like a Shafar buff, which, by the way, that's a reason why like you don't usually keep Wilted in your opening hand. You definitely keep Careless Crafter. That's like your main mole target. You want to birdwatching the Wilted Shadow, ideally. So it's actually better if it's in your deck. Plus, it does not help you survive in the early game. You can have those breakpoints in mind. Another way to do it that is really quite valid is vibes. You play the deck for a while, and you kind of get a sense of like, well, I need to win on this turn, so I'm just going to find out how much damage it is. Or I think it's enough. Or sometimes you might wait a turn, but you don't think you're going to be in a worse position if you wait a turn. And you'll probably have a better chance at lethal. Okay, maybe you missed it 1 turn, but you're probably still going to win. So, like, vibes is how I was playing this mostly. There's also kind of a rule of thumb calculation. The approximate calculation, if they don't have a ton of armor, is the attack of your Wilted, or Wilteds if you have multiple, -3. So if your Wilted is at 8, 8 minus 3 is 5. 5 times your number of heals. But you actually do a little bit more than that, because the ordering of the heals is kind of weird, but basically if they're at full health when your Wilted goes to attack, then they don't get healed, even though
they take full damage from it.
They take full damage on the first hit if they're at full health, and they take full damage on the last hit because it checks for death before it applies the healing.
Okay.
So it kind of is how you want it to work on both ends, which is weird. Technically, what I think it's doing is it calculates how much damage they could heal, then it applies the damage from the Wilted, then it checks for death, then it applies the healing. But all you really need to remember is the first hit they don't heal, the last hit they don't heal. So you can add 3 or 6, depending on whether they're at full health, to your ballpark calculation. So it's the attack of my Wilted -3 times my number of heals +3 or +6. And I did have a calculator next to me and was doing that. Then somebody in the Discord was asking, could we make a spreadsheet of this? She knows me. She sort of realized,
how can I distract Magesa from her schoolwork? Let me suggest a spreadsheet.
So I said, well, it's easy if they don't, it's not easy, but it's like, I kind of already know how to do it if there's no armor involved. But then I realized if there's armor involved, it's actually really complicated because you might still be healing them underneath the armor. So I did finally come up with the calculations. I'm not going to walk through all the calculations because that would be extremely boring podcasting. But I did link the Google spreadsheet I finally made. Is linked in the show notes. You can make a copy of it if you want. And use it. I would only use it if you're like, does this kill the Death Knight? Which, by the way, if you're not sure if it kills the Death Knight, but you'd better go now than just go and find out that way.
Yeah.
But if you want to know, I was able to tell with this that I was one-off lethal, or you can put in different scenarios kind of ahead of time to get a sense of things. And I am 99% sure that it is, if you find a situation where it was not accurate, let me know, but I am pretty sure that it is accurate. I tested it with several different combinations of things. And that is why the show notes for today are not very detailed in terms of the rest of the Decksplanations, because I spent all the time. It was like a matter of pride. I'm a math teacher. This is a complicated word problem. I should be able to do this word problem. I was using all of the word problem strategies that I teach to students, just writing equations, breaking down the equations into subparts, testing it with real numbers if you get confused. So did all of that.
I can't wait for you to use this in a classroom setting because you're going to be tempted. I know you.
One day.
You're going to be tempted to do this.
I always ask my students, do they play games and what kind of games? One day I will get someone who plays card games and then I will have endless examples.
Yeah. There's one of my commander decks where I had to make a note on my phone because it does a lot of big mana, and it's like there's this spell that it's like 2 red and then XXX, and then it does 5 times X damage to X targets. I'm like, I'm not making everybody sit there and make me do math. I'm just going to pre-calculate this and figure out what it is for each X to figure out if I can kill people or not. Because as soon as I start taking my calculator app out, people are going to leave the table.
Yeah, I'm sitting there with because I'm tutoring calculus right now. I have an actual TI-84 in my bag, which is faster than the calculator app. So I'm sitting there with my TI-84, like a 17-year-old. Yeah. But speaking of buffs, also I did make a note here. Orbital Halo, you can use it like you normally would use it. Hey, I'm going to put it on my catch of the day so it's bigger at the beginning, or I'm going to use it to do a value trade or whatever, but it's actually can be nice to save for the Wilted Shadow turn if it ends up next to the Wilted Shadow and you don't need to get rid of it for hand space reasons. Do keep in mind that that is another thing it can do. It can also trigger the Kindred Draw spell, which is relevant. So you don't necessarily just want to play an Orbital Halo just because you can, and that pains me to say that sentence, but it is true in this case that sometimes the value is more important than the tempo on the Orbital Halo.
Yeah, and one other thing, going back to the math thing for a second, is that this is a deck where you need to be engaged, and when you think you're close, you need to be doing the math on your opponent's turn.
Yeah,
because this is when you're doing a combo like this, it is going to take a while for the animations to go, and if you take the first 30 seconds of your turn figuring out if you have it or not, you may not have enough time to finish. So you want to make sure that if you are doing whatever math you're doing, or at least enough math to get you to vibes, right? You want to be doing that on your opponent's turn and know as soon as it says your turn that you're going. You cannot spend the first half of your turn trying to figure it out, because you will run out of time. And the mistake you're not allowed to make with this deck is going off halfway. It is better for you to wait a turn to do the math and be reasonably sure enough that you're close than it is to start doing this and then leave the Wilted Shadow on board and not have a dead opponent at the end of it.
I will say that luckily you're sending all your cards in the same place, and you don't necessarily need to wait for them to resolve. So you can just kind of heal face, heal face, heal face, heal face, heal face, and not wait for it to finish attacking.
But my mouse clicks slip when you're trying to go fast.
Yes,
right?
but it's still a lot of cards to play,
Yeah.
so you don't want to wait too long. And if you're playing the Rest in Peace version, sometimes you can just play a Wilted Shadow out, or you have both Wilted Shadows in hand. Sometimes you can play one out, use a couple heals to like clear or just heal yourself up and threaten them with it. And then like I won a mirror by doing that, going off a little early. I got them low. They had to use theirs to clear mine. And I had my second one in hand, and then I could kill them at my leisure, basically.
Yeah. But there's a difference between using like one or two of your bandages and most of your bandages.
Yes, that is very true.
Yeah.
You get a better hang of... It's also the kind of deck that, like, if you give it a try, if you try it, give it a few games before you really evaluate how you feel about it, because it takes a little while to get the hang of it, I think, and sort of get the feel for it. It does require kind of having a sense of the vibes. And also, it is a deck where sometimes you just don't draw your combo. So if that really, really bugs you, then maybe this isn't the deck for you. But when you do draw the combo, it's very powerful. And there are ways that you can stall and try to pull the win out if you don't get your crafters like on curve, you know. So those can be the satisfying games, I think. It's a more complicated deck than your average deck, but as OTK decks go, not that bad.
The OTK is fairly straightforward to assemble once you get there. It's just a matter of knowing if it's going to be enough or not is the hard part.
Yeah.
But like the actual, it's closer to like OTK Demon Hunter in that you're doing all, like everything is going to the same place and they're all roughly the same thing. So once you've gotten the pieces assembled, then you just start going and you're done. Or even like the Antonitis, the Aviana Priest, right? There's not really much of a combo there, but like once you start going, you're just flinging all the fireballs at the face, and it's fairly straightforward. But it's getting to that point that's the difficult part sometimes.
Yeah, I would say I find this, and partly this is because I have so much familiarity with Priest. So like, I personally am already really familiar with like what are we doing with our trusty fishing rod and stuff like that. I find it a little more approachable than like Alonius Druid.
Yeah.
Because it's not like lots of different types of spells. Yeah, I think it's worth a try. There's, you know, if you want to play the version with Tyrande, you can. I wouldn't craft her for this. Resuscitate is just a good card. If you want to play Priest at all, craft Resuscitate.
That's going to be a staple for the next year and a half, easily.
Yeah.
Like, we're just going to keep, I mean, right now we know, like, there's already 2 decks that are doing very different things with it that are both Resuscitate decks. And like, even once Catch of the Day rotates, I would imagine we'll find another 1-drop that will slide into that spot. Like, it's very good because of Trusty Fishing Rod. Like, Trusty Fishing Rod is kind of goes together with it like peanut butter and chocolate. But even once Trusty Fishing Rod goes, I think we'll have enough decks that are running small minions that Resuscitate will find a spot in those decks.
Yeah, we have 3 playable Priest decks, if we include Menagerie Priest, which is totally playable. And they all use Resuscitate for totally different reasons. And it's one of the best cards in the deck in all 3. So, yeah, it's just a good card. And it's an epic, not a legendary. So, and if you don't have Nexus Prince Shafar, because like you dusted him, and you don't necessarily have to recraft him, you can play the other version. Chill and Vol'jin is required for this deck, because you do really need the bird watchings. Pretty much any priest as well does need Chill and Vol'jin. That is a card that's rotating sooner, so like it's up to you whether you want to craft it if you don't already have him. But the bird watching is in fact quite important.
I mean, bird watching's in pretty much every priest deck at this point.
Yeah. So.
And a lot of them are running Parrot Sanctuary. I mean, not these, but a lot of them are. So the Protoss priest also is running Chill and Vol'jin. So if you're playing priest at all, that's probably a safe craft if you haven't already done so.
It's just a strong card. It's just a flexible card.
Yeah.
You can use it to make the Wilted Shadow bigger. If they have something really large, you can say like, well, thanks. Now my Wilted Shadow is really, really big now. Like if they launched an enormous starship, you're like, cool. I've been waiting for you to launch that thing because I didn't quite have enough damage until you did it. So, by the way, if you're facing this and you are a starship deck, first of all, how dare you? But second,
excuse me.
Okay, my actual position is everyone should play what they want to play. Just don't run into me with it, please. Yeah.
Like that was the only thing that approached a control deck that I was able to play for the past month. So I am not playing starships because I enjoy them. I am playing them because it is the only way that I get to play a deck at the tempo that I would like to play it at. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, that is valid. Yeah, if you enjoy starship decks or you just want to play control decks and this is what you got, that is fine. If you're facing a Wilted Priest and you're doing that, Exodar for the health. It can put you out of range.
That's almost always the case at this point. I don't think you ever. I think Exodar for health is actually the default at this point.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing an armor deck, you're probably Exodaring for health. I think it's only like if you're in a mirror that you're looking at pieces or attack. I think most of the time you're doing health in the matchups, just because of where it's positioned in the meta right now.
And you really want to be getting the starship against Wilted Priest specifically. You'd really rather launch it with Exodar, because if you just launch it by itself, you don't get the armor until it dies, and if they have their combo assembled, they just ignore it. Right?
Yeah.
In fact, it can even help them with Vol'jin, so...
Yeah, and you probably need to get the Reborn on it too if you can. I mean, that's asking a lot in the amount of time that you have available. But yeah, you want to be getting armor. You want to be getting you're probably playing the Vampiric Blood version, and you're probably trying to play that as early as you can to try to get the extra health, just to make it like the goal with a deck like that against something like Wilted Priest is making the math hard.
Yeah.
Because if you make the math hard, either it's going to take them longer or they're going to go before they're ready, and either situation is good for you as the control deck. So you want to do whatever you can to make the number bigger, to make the math more difficult.
Make them feel like they have to wait, and then that gives you a chance to get more out of range. And if they get their perfect draw, there might not be a lot you can do, but if they don't get their perfect draw, which I can tell you don't usually get the perfect draw, then you can it's absolutely winnable, even though it's not a favored matchup.
All right, well, that is going to do it for us. We have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at coinconcede.com, where you can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon. You can monetarily support us at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live, except for this week, by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/@coinconcede, and leave a message in the comments about which deck is your favorite in the meta and why it's a priest deck, I guess. Because engagement is a good thing. You can write us at our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. You can follow us on Blue Sky at coinconcede, and if you would like some Coins Concede swag, you can head over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. So we're both going to coin concede to Edel and Edelweiss, and happy birthday, Edelweiss. And we are looking forward to having you back with us next week. Coin Concedes, Magesa.
I will coin concede to Schwal for always not letting me underestimate how busy I am. in a good way. But she always reminds me that I'm doing a lot. She was also teasing me just a little bit about spending so long on this spreadsheet. That's basically just a free bingo square at this point. I will also, these are a little bit belated. I'm sorry. I meant to coin concede them the day that I was not going to be on the show, and then I was on the show, and then I missed it. And so coin concede to May for joining Dr. 3 as a host, and which is another Hearthstone podcast. And coin concede to Cold Potato, who hit Legend for the first time after listening to advice from Coin Concede and smorking people. So I'm very proud of you, Cold Potato, and sorry for the belatedness on that, but I did want to give a shout out on that.
And I'm going to coin concede to a Redditor named 7-Word Sentences, because there was a post on Reddit, I think it was today, and the person, it was a dumb post, and they've already deleted it because they were informed by basically everyone in the comments that it was a dumb post. But basically, like, posting a screenshot of whatever email you get back from like Blizzard customer service when you deactivate your account, saying that they were, free at last, I can play single player games. And people were like, you could do that anyway. You don't need to delete your account to do that. But anyway, this person posted is this the Blizzard equivalent announcing that you're quitting Twitter? You don't need to post about it. Here, look at my cat instead. And I'm putting, for the people who are watching the video, I am putting the cat on the screen because this cat is amazing. It is a tuxedo cat wearing a red bow tie. This cat saved the internet for me today. So I'm going to concede to both 7-word sentences and their cat because their cat is amazing and more people should get to see their cat. So
just the perfect expression on that cat's face too. Very pleased.
That is, Reddit would be a lot better if there were more cats in the comments. I think. Pretty sure. But anyway, that's going to do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and exercise your meta demons. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now. I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend.
You win this time.